And so now that he's all mic'd and coming on up here, I'd like to introduce him. So please give a big round of applause for Roberto Tyley.
Hi. Yeah. Hi. So I am Roberto Tyley, and I come from London, England, and I'm a lead developer at The Guardian news organization, where we break some really massive stories. Like last year, we won the Pulitzer for revealing the extent of the NSA's mass surveillance. That's Edward Snowden, the NSA whistleblower, being interviewed by one of our journalists in Hong Kong. Just to give a bit of context, The Guardian is like 200 years old. He's like old person old. Anyone recognize the old person? That's Charles Babbage. And in 1821, when The Guardian was being founded, he was in charge of, he was just like a mathematician who was checking this discrepancy in navigational tables which told sailors where they were on the Earth, their longitude, by the stars. And it was just then, when he was realizing there were lots of little discrepancies and errors in that, he thought to himself, there must be a better way of doing this. And eventually, maybe like an automated mechanical machine, and that became the difference engine, which became the computers that we all have in our pockets. And I think that's really cool. Like, The Guardian is pretty much as old as the concept of computing. But it was actually founded in response to the Peterloo massacre, which was a horrific event. There were 60,000 people all peacefully protesting for political reform in the north of England in a square. And the troops were sent in to dissipate them, sabers drawn, and they slaughtered lots of people. Many lives were lost, lots of injuries. And The Guardian was formed in response to that, to have a voice to report on the abuses of power. And so that holding power to account is something that The Guardian's been doing for a long time, basically being a pain in the ass for many governments. And one of the things about being accountable, about holding people to account, is that you need to be accountable. And so you need to be open and held to account yourself. And so one of the ways in which we're open is that if you go to our site, if you have a look at a nice responsive site that we've worked really hard on, actually all of the code behind that is open source. So we actually open source a lot of stuff. I checked on our GitHub org. We have over 700 repositories, and more than half of those are open source. These are some of our most popular ones. There's the Guardian front end, which is like the front end of the site, and this has, got over 93,000 stars, and you can see the entire source code for theguardian.com. And the next one down, the Scribe, that actually came out of our homegrown CMS system for the articles on The Guardian. We use a rich text editor, and Scribe is a polyfill for the content editable spec. So it allows cross-browser rich text editor support, and it's actually used really widely. And hey, guess what? Open source actually means that you get contributions back from the community, and that doesn't happen for a lot of our open projects, not for like all of them by any chance, but we do get contributions, and some projects, especially ones which like involve JavaScript, do get a lot of contributions. So I'm going to talk about some of our open projects. I'm going to talk about a couple of the tools that we've developed as well. So there's the obvious nice things about open source, like you get kudos, right? This is like people on Twitter saying, oh my God, Guardian, you figured this thing out, and then I could read your source code, and I could do it too. That's awesome, thank you, Guardian. So that's nice. But there are also pragmatic things, like self-interested things, like hiring. Like, hiring is hard, right? It's something that we're all trying to do all the time, and we not only are developers more interested in being able to show off the work they do, they love being open source. Actually, even just doing the hiring process, if someone's like coming in and they're not sure if they want to work with you or not, then you can show them this is the sort of stuff we do. These are the pull requests that someone else who's been on your team has been doing. Maybe you have some ideas about them, but it's like a talking point for the interview, and it can be quite strongly motivating. Or if they're not interested in that sort of stuff, then they don't have to waste your time or theirs by coming in for an interview. So it's really good for that. So if you've recently been to the Guardian site, I don't know how many people here have even heard of the Guardian before I arrived on stage. Like, some people have, yeah. Okay, well, if you've been to the Guardian site with an ad blocker, you might have seen this little banner appear, and it's like, we noticed you've got an ad blocker switched on. Perhaps you'd like to support The Guardian in another way. And this feeds into what I've been working on for the past year, which is our membership site. It's a new sort of microsite that allows members to support our journalism, because there are lots of people out there who feel that our journalism really does need to be preserved. When we're so challenged by so many governments trying to kick us in the ass. So it allows them to support us through membership fees, but it also allows them to get closer to The Guardian through like live events, stuff like that. So this was quite a speculative site. When we did this was quite an original idea for a news organisation to do this. We were dealing with a new part of The Guardian. And these were people who weren't used to the way that we've been working in the past, rapid iterative development, being agile. And so they were used to waterfall style development. They were used to long release times, like not releasing anything until it's been through like a 2-week QA process. And so what you need then is to build trust, and you need to communicate with people, and being open is really good for that. You can, what we did was we engaged with those people. We went and sat with them. We started showing them the small incremental improvements we could make, and we were able to share the code with them, show them pull requests, get them engaged, get them involved in making text changes, because that's actually words of their business quite a lot of the time, so they quite enjoy doing that. And so we were able to get to the point where a business that was kind of dictating how we should work was persuaded that this was a better way of working, and that we were able to use continuous deployment and to iterate more rapidly. So that's really good. So we were continuously deploying from master to production, which leads on to one of the bots that we pretty quickly realized that we had to write. So this tool is called Prout. Are there any French speakers in the audience? No, that's a relief, because apparently Prout in French means breaking wind. I didn't realize that. But so its actual name comes from, is your pull request out? Is your pull request out? And it just makes it much more visible as to how your continuous deployment pipeline is going. Because obviously your pipeline will have many stages, right? It will have the CI server, it will have deployment, it will have the actual servers spinning up and becoming ready, and maybe have a CDN on top of that. So sometimes that breaks. And there are a lot of things to check, like pipelines explode, and what you really want is a check that goes from the start of the pipeline, which is your pull request, and just cares about the very end bit, which is your live site serving the stuff you want. So, I mean, this is a conceptual map of what your deployment pipeline looks like, right? You start off with a pull request, and then it goes into the Magic Mountain, where the army of crazy zombie squirrels construct the deployable artifact by whatever, maybe use Jenkins, I don't know, and then you deploy it by some other means. We use Riffraff at The Guardian, another open source project, and then that gets deployed to the live servers. And eventually, like, a person can hit a URL and they get the new artifact. So the thing about Prout is it doesn't really care about what happens in Magic Mountain. It doesn't care about the routes your pipeline takes. All it cares about is the pull request and the live site. So long as the live site bakes in its Git commit ID that it was created with, then Prout can read like a tiny bit of configuration JSON, which says, okay, this is where my site is, and if the pull request isn't out in 40 minutes, consider that overdue. And then it will clone down your entire Git repository, and it will figure out. So on the left is like your Git repository history, and then if it's looking, what Prout will do is it will grab the commit ID from your live site, and it'll say, okay, so that little world symbol there, that's the commit that I can see on the live site. So that means all of the green things, they have been actually deployed. But the red thing, for some reason, that pull request there has not been deployed to production, even though it's merged onto master. So that is a bad situation. The pipeline is broken some way, and you need to get onto fixing that. So it will label the pending pull requests, it will label the deployed pull requests, and if a pull request is overdue, then it will also label that in red. And it's very easy from a visibility point of view. Again, communicating with the wider business, it's communicating what is deployed and like how how far features have made it. So that's one of the tools we built at The Guardian. And because we're becoming so dependent on the GitHub infrastructure, we realized that actually that's a really great thing, but we had so many users in our organization that we didn't know who the hell they were. So there's we had 200 users, they had really cryptic usernames and no names associated with them, and so we were like, why are these people in our organization? We don't really know because the audit log doesn't go back that far, and why aren't they using 2FA? I mean, two-factor authentication. If someone can merge a pull request with a GitHub account, they can change what's deployed to our site. So our GitHub accounts are pretty crucial. So we need them to be properly secured. So Goohoo is a little bot which runs off a tiny little repository that you stick into your organization, and it's just a users.txt file, and it says, these are all the users who are in my organization, and anyone who's failing in some regard, some secure regard, like they're not identifiable, they don't have a full name, or they don't have two-factor auth turned on, it will highlight those, and you can look at the issues. Again, everyone abuses GitHub issues, right? This is how we're abusing it, and you can filter down to say, oh, who are the people who haven't got two-factor authentication turned on? We have 100% two-factor authentication use at The Guardian, because if you don't turn it on, we just automatically boot you off the organization again. So we feel fairly confident that at least the accounts are secure. So yeah, in security in general, if you are open, if your repositories are public, that encourages a much better mindset around security. You're not tempted to try obscurity. You're not tempted to put passwords or other credentials into your repository, and you secure your endpoints. So you might be thinking, if I can't necessarily open a Git repository if it's got stuff in the Git's history, so because Git maintains all history, how do I get rid of those passwords? Even if I delete them from my latest commit, what do I do there? So there is a tool called Git Filter Branch, which will kind of rewrite your history for you. But we've actually, at The Guardian, we wrote another tool called the BFG, which is actually a much more friendly experience. It's much faster as well, like 1,000 times faster. It rewrites your history, it strips out passwords, credentials, big files, and it's very easy to use and really fast. So that can be quite a useful tool when you're open sourcing a project. So, yeah, in summary, being open is good for hiring, communication, cost, security, quality, trust, immediacy, and improving the total sum of human knowledge, which is a fantastic thing. So I say, do it and develop in the open.